Hello viewers, welcome to Ekam Academy. Today, as part of our quick bite series, today we are going to discuss about Palestinian membership to UN. So, if you have seen in the recent times, in the last 2 years, we are mostly hearing about Palestinian crisis and all. In the last 6 months, we have seen Israel and Palestine war also in the news so much. So, here in this context, you have to remember that Palestine is not recognized as a UN member and not even recognized as a state by different countries. Why? Because they say that Palestine is not having sovereignty. So we'll look into this issue and we'll understand why now Palestine has applied for UN membership and what is the criteria to grant UN membership. At the same time, if there are any other states like Palestine which are saying that they are sovereign but they couldn't get any official membership from UN. In this context, we'll be looking into these aspects. So first, without any further delay, let's start here. Why in news means I already have explained. Palestine has applied for full UN membership. So they wanted this membership. So what is the process here? When they forward this to the UN Secretary General, normally who is the in charge of UN. So then what will happen is, then he will forward this application to another committee which will look into the affairs of induction of new members. So there will be a separate subcommittee. Like in Parliament, we have different committees for different reasons. No? Same way here also we have different committees under UN. So a committee which will look into the prospects about new member entry and all. So that committee will look into whether this Palestine is meeting all the requirements or the essential criteria which has to be there to get UN membership or not. Then it will forward this to the UN Security Council. Then UN Security Council has to take this and they have to pass this resolution also, accepting Palestine as the full-time member of UN. So in this, you have to understand the procedure also. So as I have already told you, after this committee scrutinizing whether it has met all the essential criteria or not, then it will be forwarded to the UN Security Council. So then you have to understand what is the process. But before that, just in the polity context or even in political theory concept, you should know what is a state, whether India is a state or nation. This is the first question I'm posing to you. Then second question is, when we are under British rule, are we a complete state or not? Okay, in this context, you should know what is the essential of a state. What are the essentials? Okay, so if you see, normally a state means we should have at least 4 essentials to qualify to be a state. Okay, first thing is there should be population who are residing within the so-called state. Then we also should have defined territory within, then we can call it as a state, defined territory. Then third criteria is there should be government which is ruling that particular state. Then fourth, there should be sovereignty. Sovereignty also should be there. So these are the 4 essential criteria for a state. So now India, if you see, India is qualifying all these criteria, so India is a state. But previously, when we were under British rule, what happened is we are having these 3 things, but we didn't have sovereignty, right? Sovereignty means, you know, Indian preamble also mentions that India is a sovereign state from the date of its adoption. That means we don't have any external influence in our domestic affairs. That means India is free to take any decisions of its own. So that is what sovereignty implies. So from 1950 onwards, we are a complete sovereign state. But before that, under British rule, we were not a complete sovereign state. At that time, India is not a state. Do remember these things. Then what is the process? How to get UN membership is, as I told you, any country which wants to get UN membership, they have to forward the application to the UN Secretary General. Then from there, it will be forwarded to the committee which will look into the induction of new members. Then from there, it will be sent to the UN Security Council. UN Security Council. So UN Security Council, then it will look into the application and all. Then it has to pass. Out of 15 members in the UN Security Council, you know, we have 10 non-permanent and 5 permanent member countries. No? So what are the P5 countries? US, UK, you have China, Russia and France. So these are the P5 countries we have. So all these P5 countries and 10 non-permanent countries which are elected for 2-year period. No? So those among these 15 countries, at least 9 countries should vote in favor of that resolution. Then only it will be passed by UN Security Council. Then it will be forwarded to the UN General Assembly after getting approval of UN Security Council. Then General Assembly should pass the same resolution with 2/3 majority, like special majority in our parliament, right? Same way with 2/3 majority if that resolution is passed, then from the date of adoption of that resolution, it will be inducted as a full-time member of UN. This is a criteria which is normally followed. And next important thing you have to keep in mind is here, in this 9 members, all the P5 members should vote in favor of the resolution. In case if any of the P5 country vote against the resolution, or if they use their veto power, that is why we are asking for UNSC expansion. No, only P5 countries are having currently the veto power. No veto power should be exercised in this regard. In case if any of the P5 country uses its veto power, then what happens is that resolution will be blocked there itself. That means it cannot be passed to the UN General Assembly. Subsequently, it cannot get its membership in UN. So in this way, you have to keep in mind 9 out of 15 should vote in favor. At the same time, no P5 country should veto the decision. So most importantly, with respect to Palestine, US is always asserting its support to Israel itself. It is not recognizing Palestine. So during Donald Trump's presidency, we have seen even they have shifted diplomatic embassy also from Tel Aviv, to Jerusalem also. So in this context, you should know always that US, it is very difficult, because on the other side you have US, UK, France. If China and Russia support for Palestinian resolution also, these 3 countries which are normally in favor of Israel and supporting Israel, it is very difficult for them to support this Palestinian resolution to get full membership in the UN. So this is one you have to keep in mind. Then can countries withdraw, like you have seen now with respect to UN membership, what is the process and how they can get membership in UN. But another important question is, can UN members, being a state or being a particular member of UN, can they withdraw their membership? Means UN Charter. You know what is UN Charter? So we have already seen UN Charter is nothing but is a law which has created this UNO in 1945. Okay, UNO was born out of this UN Charter itself. So what is this UN Charter saying? So there is no right to withdraw. So that means member states cannot withdraw their membership from UN. Why this condition was asserted? Because if you have remembered, UN is an organization which was a successor to the League of Nations. League of Nations was formed after World War I in 1919s. Okay, so then what happened? This League of Nations mainly failed because of the withdrawal of membership by different countries. In case if League of Nations said that if we wanted to impose these type of things, if you don't adhere to the conditions and norms, then they started threatening League of Nations that in case if you do this, we are withdrawing our membership from the League of Nations. That is one of the main reason why this League of Nations failed. Because of this reason, UN Charter has clearly said that countries which are members of UN cannot withdraw, because when they have given an option of withdrawing, what they'll do, they always threaten UN. In case if you take any decision against our interests, we'll definitely withdraw from UN membership. Like this, they will threaten. That is why UN Charter doesn't permit any country to withdraw its membership from the UN. So this is the most important aspect you have to keep in mind. So if there is any attempt by any country, means yes, Indonesia has tried to withdraw its membership from UN, and at that time it has even expressed its interest in withdrawing, but later on, after Sukarno, who was the president at that time, when he withdrawn his presidency, then again the next president said, no, we are again continuing and we wanted to resume the relations with UN. In that way, that attempt was failed. So this is the first most important thing you have to keep in mind. Then another interesting question you have to know in this aspect is, what are the other member countries which are like aspiring member countries to take membership in UN? So for example, if you see Palestine doesn't have membership, at the same time in the recent times we are seeing Taiwan also. So Taiwan also doesn't have full-fledged membership in UN. So it was China is saying Taiwan is integral part and it is part of China itself. One China policy and principle they're adhering. So Taiwan doesn't have membership in UN. At the same time, Vatican City also doesn't have membership in UN, and we have another state called Kosovo. This particular area also doesn't have UN membership, you can say. Then Western Sahara. This is also an area which is aspiring to get membership in UN, but these states doesn't have membership in the UN. Okay, so they are called so territories, and some countries are objecting their particular membership because they doesn't have the sovereignty and all the essentials to become a state to apply for UN membership. And present, how many member countries are part of UN means 193 countries are part of UN. So these are the aspects which you have to know from this context. So then what is the practice question I have given in the previous video with respect to AUKUS alliance? Okay, so AUKUS alliance we already have discussed, right? So it is directly aimed at controlling the offense maneuvers of China in the Indo-Pacific. This is not related to this, not directly. Okay, so it is mainly a submarine deal between Australia, US and UK. Then this alliance with Australia will acquire the nuclear powered submarines, correct? Diplomatic grouping involving Australia, UK and US. This is not a diplomatic grouping but just a defense deal, you can say, or military alliance. So the answer, as they have asked incorrect statements, answer is 1 and 3 and second statement is right. Then what is the question for today? Which UN organ separately elects the judges of International Court of Justice? So you have UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, A and B, both options and none of the above. So try to choose the correct option and put your answer in the comment section. As we have reached the end of the video, today we have discussed about why Palestine has applied for membership in UN, what is the process to get membership in UN, and also we have seen what are the essentials of a state, along with can the UN member countries withdraw from their membership in UN. These are the aspects which we have covered. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.